Mel,
Brandon.
Mell More, episode 5.
Indeed. Indeed, a beautiful Friday evening
Couldn't be better.
after a grueling week of being retired. But I haven't missed a day of work yet. Didn't plan that one out very well.
Maybe next week.
I just didn't. But business booming, economy's just roaring.
Yeah,
I talk to guys across the country, you do too, about how much stuff is going on.
Yep, everything's busy right now, which is great.
And we got to capitalize on it too. Which kind of brings us up to the subject while we're here. Capitalization on what is at hand. Making the best of it.
There you go.
Being able to hit the knuckleball. Anybody hit a curve, got to hit a knuckleball. And that's what we've been throwing.
All day long.
Damn knuckleball. Yeah. So what did the producer come up with about the voting sequence, or how you select a commissioner who's resigned, replacement?
All right, so Mr. Producer, I told you I'd get a hold of him previously on Mell More during our duologue.
Duologue. I like that.
We found out at the time we were questioning what is the protocol for appointing a new commissioner in lieu of Dan Yurkovich resigning. Well, at the time we didn't know. The next morning in the paper, they published what they thought was right, and the city published on their website what they thought was right on how the process works, and they were right, but they did leave out something that was kind of interesting.
Wait. They were right, but they did leave out some stuff?
Yeah.
Ooh, errors and omissions.
Yeah. So, in the paper and on the arts.
Intentionally?
I don't think so. I don't think it was intentionally. I think it was just they repeated what Mayor Warren said during the commission meeting, and then the city obviously already had this, publication ready for production and to produce right on the website following the commission meeting, which they did, and then the paper, copied excerpts of that. And
so what did Mr. Producer come up that was different to what was given to us in full faith and confidence?
Yeah, so in Charter Ordinance number 29, which is on arccity.org's website, is an ordinance, a city ordinance, much similar to the state ordinance on how we deal with our type of mayor, commissioner type of government. And in here, it has, further down into section 7, it shows in the case of any vacancies from any cause of office, a mayor or a commissioner, the remaining members of the Board of Commissioners, including the outgoing member, if available, within 30 days after notice of vacancy, shall appoint a suitable person to fill the vacancy. So what that means is Dan Yurkovich, despite resigning, he still has a say-so if he's available to help appoint.
So he's not obligated to do
He's not
so.
obligated, the way I read it. But if available, so if he wants to, or if he has a care to, or if he would like to.
Does Dan have the integrity to feel obligated on this, do you think?
I don't know. I don't know the exact reasons why he departed, so I don't know what type of position he's in order to do that.
I don't know the exact reason, but I certainly have speculation of what I don't know if it's worth going into it or not, but everybody's got the reasons. But I think he's honor bound after, this many years of leading us here and leading us there, finish the damn thing up and select somebody.
So he at least has if he has the availability, if he is available, he at least has the authority.
So if he doesn't, what happens then?
Well, the other 4 commissioners, the remaining commissioners, Mayor Warren, Commissioner Eastman, or Vice Mayor Welch, or Commissioner Ginger, all have the opportunity to get together, all 4 of them, and decide who the next person is.
And 4-0, well, what if it's a 2-2 tie?
Well, that's happened before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, years ago, I think it was when Hockenberry resigned, there was some discussion on, there was battle of the bands on who's going to get elected, or who's going to get appointed, rather, and they were trying to sort that out. And they do have a clause written into this that covers that now. So if the if the voting members, including the outgoing member, if available, cannot agree by majority vote, which would be a 3-1 in this scenario if Mayor Yurkovich Commissioner Yurkovich chose not to participate, shall cast the majority vote upon a suitable person, then they can call on the city attorney, who shall cast a decisive vote for such appointment. So even if Dan chose not to participate, and they got in a, or if he did, and they still couldn't come to a reasonable agreement and pick a suitable person, then city attorney, they call on the city attorney, who shall cast a decisive vote for such appointment. I didn't know that. I didn't even know that existed.
I can. You can't legally bind the leaving commissioner to do anything.
No, you
give
can't
a hold over him. Having the city attorney make the tiebreaker might sound good on the surface, but I see a lot of problems with that. I see a lot of problems.
Well, the main, what's the problem with it?
Well, the number one problem I see is she might have a little chip on her shoulder because of the incident at the hospital where she's no longer the bill collector, and that was, by all accounts, her primary, how her bread was buttered.
I like bread.
I like mine buttered, and I understand her ill will towards the people that, it's a slippery slope. She's also the prosecutor for the city, and she's also a debt collector for the city. So these things, you get the wrong person selecting the next commissioner.
I mean, as a city attorney, by design, you should be, number one job should be to protect the city.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it doesn't say that nowhere that I know of, but I mean, by design, her job should be to protect the city.
It does talk of conflict of interest of that.
And secondly, she's, as an attorney in general, she needs to remain, neutral.
Aloof, yes, indeed she does.
And in that particular situation, do you think a city attorney could remain neutral in deciding a somebody that she may work for?
Yeah, I don't see how she possibly could, not being an elected official herself, because her skin in the game is a lot different than my skin in the game.
Sure.
I want a well-run city. I don't really give a damn what anybody makes. I want the city to run well. And the well-being of anybody is fine as long as it's done in front of the well-being of the city. And I could just see the whole thing just fraught with problems and conflicts. It's a bad idea. It becomes a beauty pageant. This is my friend. This is who I want in there, irregardless of what would be in the best interest of the citizens of this town.
No.
I see a stranglehold in the town. I've seen it for years, and I don't know why. I mean, there's plenty to go around. Boom, raging economy. People need to move on and get a lot of stuff done. We're not as a city. We're not capitalizing on that. It doesn't appear to be. I'm doing well, but I see a lot of other guys struggling along. And that this mindset and having somebody that's status quo. I don't know about the term deep state, but boy, that's the way it starts to look.
It does sometimes, doesn't it? So you brought up a point about whether or not she could do that, whether or not she could make that vote in a neutral standpoint, or cast that deciding vote in a neutral standpoint. I mean, it's written not specific to her; it's written to the city attorney. And Mr. Producer also pulled her contract with the city, and nowhere within her contract, although the charter ordinance does say that she has that responsibility within the contract, nowhere in there does it say that she'd have that authority to do such. And while that is probably relatively insignificant and means nothing, what I did point out in here is that she's been in this role since 2005.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a long time.
Yeah, 14 going on 15 years.
So, and this contract that she has, it automatically renews every year. So unless or the commissioners, more so.
When does it renew?
Well, it renews automatically January 1st of every year.
Well, you got plenty of time.
Well, it says you've got to provide 90 days written notice to, and either party may provide written notice. So,
Prior to the automatic renewal, you have to have 90 days?
Yeah. So with that being
said... So it actually ended in October?
Well, in October.
The end of September, actually.
Yeah, really the end of September. So they have the end of September, the commissioners, and
what month is this?
We're straight up on August 10th or 9th. August 10th.
And we have 30 days to do the timing.
So, with that, she might try to pick somebody that would automatically renew her contract.
I would if I were her.
I would if I were her too. So, just kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when we start going for personalities versus productivity, that's why, yeah, we got a problem here. Dan's got to stay. I don't know what Dan's point of view is on this. I have no idea. I can't read into what he's done or what he's doing, but I do know that he would have a pulse on it better than anybody else would. Somebody walking off the street would have no idea.
Sure.
And so I think I would, if I were him, I would feel obligated. And I think the guy does feel obligated on stuff. I'm sure when he did quit, I'm sure he spent a lot of time agonizing over it.
Yeah, nobody wants to quit. So I'm sure he did what he had to do, which is what we all do.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing here.
For better, yeah. And we really are. We're not here. There's going to be the haters out there. People are going to hate us for whatever we do, but it doesn't make any difference. The transparency is necessary, and with our inherent knowledge and Mr. Producer looking at stuff, and
our goal is to make Ark City great again.
Our goal is to have a great place to live.
Yeah.
Gosh, I mean, I don't want to live in Derby. I want to live here, but I want this to be a good place to live. I got, just like you, everything in the sun's invested here, and a lot of other people. So if the town does well, I do well.
That's right.
If the town does poorly, I do poorly. So in the best interest of the town, Dan's got to stay for just long enough to make this vote on who to get in for next commissioner.
So back on,
because I know there's some dissension among the commissioners on who looks at what and how. So it's not a unison vote, and it's not a unison mindset.
Yeah, and you're going to have that. I mean, it was that way when I was on, and
Which is supposed to be.
It was that way when you were on, and that's what makes it work.
It should be 3-2 often.
Yeah, but one thing we glossed over last time in episode 4 is when we touched briefly on in episode 3 about these commissioners getting paid.
Oh yeah.
You recall that?
Yeah,
so and we definitely skipped right past it.
Absolutely.
In light of Dan's resignation last week, but these commissioners, they shut down Nick Hernandez last week. He offered saying, "Hey, we want to pay you guys," and they said, "No, we want to push this off till next year and let the new commission decide if they're going to get paid or not." And I think Nick's right, and Nick and I don't always see eye to eye, but on this he is dead on. And one of his reasonings was if you get a new group in there, which you should get a couple new people by law of averages, because Dan's not rerunning, and you're going to get at least one new guy, at least, maybe 2. If the new commission votes to give themselves an increase, which would be an increase of any amount because they get 0 now, it could be perceived as patting your own back, and I didn't know how to approach it when I was on there, thinking that commissioners need paid, but they need paid. I don't know what the magic number is. It's $500 a month or $1,000 a month, whatever that number is. But those commissioners need to get paid, and every one of them guys, Dan, Jay, well, I guess not Dan, but Jay, Karen, Kenyon, and also Karen all need to reconsider that. They need to get that to where those commissioners and future generations of commissioners are getting paid for their service, because it takes a lot of work, and I think they're missing the boat.
I mean, if the number's thrown out about 12 grand a year, I don't know if that's for all five or
per person.
per person. Per person, it's only like 5 times, no, 60. It's only 60,000 a year, which is
What, less than a
that's
percent?
That's a salary. That's one person's salary.
One person's salary, and less than a percent of the total city's budget.
And from what they're expected to do, now they're not looking at a 40-hour week, but they're looking at a 10, 15-hour week. If you're doing your job at least that much.
Yep.
So based on a per hour amount, why would you not pay them? And why would then you could expect them to read the damn agenda? I mean, come on. The skin in the game would be the money. All of a sudden, I'm paying you. I thank you for your service, but I'm paying you.
Yep.
So you're obligated
To do a nice job.
To do a decent job. At least understand what's going on and just agree to be vogue or to be liked or something like that versus knowing what's going on. And it could possibly prompt some other people to run because they're saying I just can't take that time away for free. I mean, I don't know.
And it comes at a risk. I mean, a lot of the folks that would be nice to get on the commission sometimes are business owners.
Gosh.
And, I don't know if Scotty understands the unintended consequences of his civic duty running, but he is, and Travis Pierman too. I mean, he's got his own business and he runs customers. He has customer base too, but not near in the public and in the eye as Scotty or you did when you ran. But how many thousands of dollars did you lose when you were a commissioner?
Hundreds of thousands.
I mean, you had people pissed off at you because what you said in the paper or did on the commission, and they quit using your services, and
more than that, what I lost, but also time away from my business. I should have been taking care of business. I was doing city matters.
Sure.
Because if you're doing your job, you're going to spend some time doing that. And I'm talking sleepless nights. I'm talking research and figuring out, because one thing I learned, which I think that every commissioner does learn, if it says staff recommends, that's when you need to do your damn research.
That's when you better start reading.
You better start reading, because the lobbyists are in there promoting this stuff. And I don't necessarily blame the staff, because they were painted this picture and sold this bill of goods. But when it's your own pocketbook that's coming out, and it's often said that it's like, good.
Oh, well, even on the water plant, I was adversely.
That's what I was going to say.
I was adversely against it, and they produced this big, beautiful rendering.
Yeah.
They had these people sitting on a park bench out in front of the water plant, and
the parking lot full of cars.
And the parking lot full of cars in this big parking lot, and I literally remember counting. I think there was 40 parking spots, and in the exact same presentation, they were saying this plant can be ran with 1 to 2 people per shift. It's not even and I was like, then why the hell do we need 40 parking stalls? And they're like, oh, that's just a rendering. That'll all change. Well, guess what we got? 40 parking stalls over at the water plant.
And sure did.
And I don't know what else you do with the parking stalls besides, I don't know, maybe it's good for Daisy May's overflow parking?
Possibly, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they have a classroom in there because their mindset was they were going to use that as a synergy to build all kinds of other city hall stuff there. And their plan was different than our plan. And that's why city managers should have a limit. That's why city attorneys should have a limit. There should be time limits for them. I know with the commissioners, if a commissioner stays there, it interferes so much with their private life. And Rogers ought to ask Dan why he's getting out.
Yeah, and I commend both of those guys because
Sure.
they put they're each one of them people, myself, you, Dan, and Scott. They're willing to put their own well-being, their own business, their own financial income at risk.
At a cost, not a risk, but at a cost.
At a cost, and at a risk, for that matter. I mean, it could go.
There's a risk and there is a cost.
So,
and for me, the cost was really not lost revenue because of anybody's adverse. We didn't make our living in Ark City, we made our living in other places, but the time away from my business to do what I needed to do, or I felt I needed to do, to make sure that I knew what was going on, was huge. Work sessions would last 2-3 hours, as they should. Commission 2 or 3 hours, but for every 2 or 3 hours, there was also double that amount in prep time, which there should be. And plus fielding phone calls from, I mean, there wasn't a lot of phone calls from individuals, and people were wanting things, but as far as on a business, especially like Rogers,
I got more calls from city employees than I did from the average Joe citizen when I was on.
it's
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
No, still up in the air. Still a little ways to go. But on the, yeah, I hope Dan does the right thing. But I think he will. I think
Yep.
Dan's an honorable guy.
yeah, very honorable.
I mean, I don't see eye to eye with Dan often. That's not that I don't see eye to eye with him. I disagree with the way he approaches things or what he does sometimes. But as far as the toll that it's taken on him, it's a big toll.
Yeah.
And I certainly understand why he's gone. And to attract people, maybe, hey, this is we're going to pay you $1,000 a month to take this kind of abuse.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. So next episode 6, we're going to talk about the candidates that are going to be discussed at the work session next Friday. So people got to put in their.
How they got to get them in by when?
Friday the 16th, I believe, is the date I heard.
I wonder how many people applied.
I don't know, but I'm going to ask for a list in the spirit of transparency, and we're going to talk about it.
What kind of person would you recommend to apply?
Somebody who wants to make a difference that doesn't have an agenda.
What if their agenda was to fix things?
Well, that's fine. a selfish agenda. How about that?
Yeah, and it's not selfish if it's for your own town, is it?
No, but if it's for your own being,
you're not gonna make any money doing this stuff. But the person, somebody that wants to, I don't even know if they need to have any practical experience in any of this stuff, but they do have to have a clear eye as far as being able to look at stuff and grasp it and not be influenced by
Other people,
especially the in-place people.
you got to be a critical thinker. You got to, if you run a good household, I think you could run well in the commission.
Balance your own checkbook, understanding that you ain't got it. If you don't have the money for it, you just can't have it. That's all there is to it. And don't put your sights so damn high that it's not attainable, because the thought that we're not in competition with anybody. We just need to do good by ourselves. So this long-term outlook, we really can't run it that way. We've got to take care of what we've got first. And then, because I don't know when the last time that the Chamber of Commerce or Cali First came and visited my humble abode. I don't know when they ever asked me, hey, how's it going? I don't remember that time because it never happened. And so, you know what? Damn it.
Anything else, Mel?
Nah, I've said enough.
Are you
I've
sure?
said enough.
Anybody else you want to call boyfriends or
Oh,
do any more name calling?
I'm on the cusp. I'm running the edge of an attack, and that's not why we're here. We're here to. Can we all just get along? But in the voting deal, out of all those ballots, there was only 2,349 ballots cast for the 6 candidates.
Well, total.
Total.
And they each had an opportunity to cast 3.
And each have an opportunity. So
there's
they
only
did not.
3,300 in the whole county.
So
3,300 people in the whole county voted.
I don't understand this mindset of not voting. Or this thought, I just want to vote
Or
for this
not-
guy.
or
to
not
make sure
showing up
he
to the
gets in.
commission
Or
meeting.
not showing up to commission meetings.
Which is probably more impactful than voting.
Could be, or just. I do know one thing, that people should be able to elect people that should represent them, and they shouldn't have to keep an eye on them. They shouldn't have to. But then again, the people that they elect, you shouldn't have to watch them. So it just doesn't quite work that way. Agenda-driven politics. If it says staff recommends, do your damn research, figure it out yourself. Don't believe anybody.
That's right.
It took me a year to figure that out. A wasted year.
Whole year.
Whole year to figure that out, because there wasn't Mell More to tell me anything. We offer a valuable service, and I'm not looking for people to agree with me. I don't give a damn if they agree with me. I'm just going to tell you what I know to be so, and I have no thoughts of monetary gains on this at all. And I'm not even here. I'm not good looking. I'm certainly not.
And I make you buy the beer.
I buy the beer. And my diction's not very good, and my grammar's horrible, and I'm not very educated. So, I smoke. Well, it's not cheap cigars; they're $1. I mean, see, I understand what $1 is. Beer's good though.
Anything else?
Nah,
Mel?
yeah, I've said enough.
Mell More signing off.
Said enough. Hasta la vista.